Welcome to Why Sew, the podcast where some of your favorite sewing personalities and rising stars share what motivates them to create using needle and thread. I'm your host, Jason Prater, and with me today is Michelle Morris of Sewn Magazine and That Black Chic. I'm really excited to get to speak with her about why she sews. Welcome to Why Sew, Michelle.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
So, before we get going, maybe you can tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background and, what you're doing.
Absolutely. So, like you said, my name is Michelle. And first I started with my blog, That Black Chic. It was a way for me to actually just showcase photographs online. I was new to blogging in 2013. So I found that you can put pictures online, and I'm a serial picture taker. So I was like all for it. And I happened upon the sewing blog. And I hadn't been sewing in like 20 plus years by this time. And it was like, wow, people are still sewing and there's blogs. And, so then I got back into the swing of it. And it seemed like on the blog, I started posting pictures of the things that I was sewing, and that was gathering more interest in the blog. So that's how the blog turned into a sewing blog. And then, awesome. And then I followed that up with several years later with the fact that I wasn't seeing many people that looked like me in sewing publications. So then I hopped on and started publishing a sewing magazine called Sewn Magazine.
Let me get this straight. So you start a blog that you're just going to share some pictures. So it really had no sewing connection whatsoever at this point.
None.
And then a few years later, you decide to just start your own magazine so you can share with the world more people that look like you.
Absolutely.
That is freaking awesome. I love that.
While working a full-time job too.
Oh my goodness. So what do you do full time?
In the health administration business.
And you're still doing this?
No, I just, during the pandemic is when I stopped doing that. So now I'm freelancing full time.
Okay. I was going to say, what are you, Superwoman? I mean, come on. That is so cool. Well, I've got a whole bunch of questions and we could take us in a whole bunch of directions. But first and foremost, do you consider yourself like a sewist, a seamstress, a quilter, an omnicrafter? Like what's your focus? What's the thing that, Michelle's best known for?
I like omnicrafter. No, that was the first time I ever heard that one. But I asked myself that same question quite a few times. And what I'll say is that sewing for me is not like therapeutic at all. I appreciate the fact that with my hands, I can create something that people want to see. So that's why I sew. So I just consider myself an artist, whether it be with, and I do draw and paint, but whatever I'm doing, I just consider it all art. Like, okay. I create wearable art.
But now you have a background in fashion design, though, right? So do you sew mostly clothes? Yeah, my background is in fashion design. And so I've had experience with fashion design and tailoring. So majority of the garments I make are like I consider them pieces of art, but I mostly create garments and not your everyday garments. I'm like creating that stuff that's out there that makes people say, wow, that kind of stuff. Right. That's so cool. So how did you get into sewing to begin with? I talked to a lot of people and, sometimes it's usually, mom or grandmom or, something like that. But how did you get started sewing? What brought you to the sewing world for a creative outlet, if you will? Absolutely. So I'll say when I was younger, I was sewing by hand, but it wasn't, I would say it was probably more out of necessity than anything else, is because, unfortunately we weren't very well off. So I had to be creative with the garments that I did have. So I did refashioning before refashioning was a thing. So I did start out like that. And then I went into junior high school and home economics. And that's where
I was introduced to a sewing machine. My economics teacher was amazing. And that's where I took off with like actually creating my own garments.
That's awesome. Now, at that time, I mean, so you're like middle school, and I love to always ask this. So were your friends sewing too, or was this like a Michelle thing and all your friends were doing their stuff, but Michelle was sewing?
It definitely was a Michelle thing because, well, everyone's, back then, everybody took home economics, and I hear they were bringing it back. I don't know with the pandemic, what's going to happen with that, but I was excited to hear that they were bringing it back to schools. But everyone had to take economics, home economics. You had to take sewing. You had to take the cooking. So I did that with, school. But outside of that, I just fell in love with sewing and being able to create clothing that I couldn't purchase. So outside of that, yeah, that was all me. It was like, I had people coming to me like, oh, can you make me this? And I'm like, yeah, I can. Didn't know what I was doing.
So your friends thought it was cool. Like this wasn't something they were making fun of you for. They thought it was pretty cool that you were creating stuff.
Absolutely. I made some ill-fitting clothes for my friends.
So what was like the first thing you made on the sewing machine? I know you did some hand sewing to, alter clothing for yourself prior to that, but on the sewing machine, what was the first thing you created?
The first thing, and I kid you not, the first thing I made in home economics class while everybody else was making pillowcases, I made a pleated pair of pants. And they were amazing. I to this day, I'm like, wow, I didn't even know how that happened.
But was it like the style? I need some pleated pants. I mean, what was going on?
I remember because that same pair of pleated pants I tried to make for all my friends. But I guess my teacher, like, she saw something in me where, okay, well, we can start with this project, versus starting with the easier projects. Yeah, I just dived in and I loved it. Yeah.
That's so cool. So you have this home ec teacher, I guess, would you say that she's been she was your primary teacher? I mean, she's how you learned to sew properly?
Absolutely. Miss Bigelow. Yeah, she was it. My family, no one in my family sews that I know of, that were close around me. But yeah, so she was my mentor, my cheerleader. She was, yeah.
Man, that's awesome. That's what teachers are supposed to do, right?
Yes.
So you sewed when you were at school, but then what about at home? Were you able to buy a sewing machine and so you could continue to sew at home, or did you just spend a lot of extra time at school? Like, how did that?
To be honest with you, so when I was younger, I didn't have money to get a sewing machine at home, but I went to my teacher's house. And so it was that special of a relationship is that, I was at her house sewing. And then when I didn't get my own sewing machine until I was in high school is when I got a sewing machine. Wow. In high school, yeah.
Shout out to Ms. Bigelow for taking time after school to sew with you. That's awesome. Yeah, that is super cool. So you're sewing with Miss Bigelow, learning all this stuff. Like, so what comes next? I mean, you take a long period of time. You said like 20 years, that you didn't really sew or do much with it. You start this blog. I mean, what were you doing in the meantime, and what brought you back to sewing? I mean, we talked about the blog, but
so after junior high school, I went to high school and they had a technical school, and lo and behold, they had a fashion design program. So after I went with Mrs. Bigelow, I went into school for 3 years. And I did the fashion design program. So that honed my skill on the design side, learning pattern making and everything. So I was making garments all the way up to then. Graduated high school, I did go to 1 year Moore College of Art in Philadelphia, but I couldn't afford that. So then I went to technical school for tailoring, and I did finish that program. And so then after that, that's when I fell off of sewing, because I was actually sewing for people, and that become tedious. And then it was like I grew up, I was an adult, and then family things started happening. So that's where after I got my tailoring degree, that's where it teetered off, where I wasn't sewing so much,
right.
So that's
life started getting in the way.
It did.
Funny how that happens, right?
I I know. I try to tell my kids before they became adults, and now they're adults, and they're like, wait, what? What is this? I was like, I told you.
Exactly. I know my girls are 19 and 20, so they're just at that age where, they're starting to learn that, man, adulting is hard.
Right.
While you're young, do those fun stuff because
absolutely
the world's about to smack you in the head.
Yep.
So, when you're not, well, I shouldn't say when you're not, what kind of things do you like to sew now? Like, what do you, in your magazine, I know you show off a lot of really cool stuff. Is that all Michelle's creations?
Not everything in the magazine. So my favorite thing to do is I'm a denim head, and if I could do everything in denim, I would. So that's my fabric of choice. I work a lot with denim. I like creating different textiles with denim. I love piecework and just making denim look as abstract or as interesting as possible. I do a lot with that.
Oh, that's cool. And is that all primarily garment focused, or do you do other things?
Yeah, pretty much. So I would say 90% of the things I do are garments. And then other things, like right now I'm doing this denim piecework. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see. That's fantastic.
I'm doing this. This is going to be the front cover for a tote bag for my niece for Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a great, thank you for that entree into my next question. My next question was going to be about, I talk to so many people that, of course, sewers are constantly asked to sew things, but some of their favorite things seem to be giving handmade gifts. And so I just wonder, is that something that you do often? And does any particular gift you've ever given that was handmade sort of stand out to you as particularly memorable?
I don't do a lot of gift giving with handmade items because I learned a long time ago is people, they take your gifts, they take them. I don't know if they really know what to do with them or if they really want them. So that confuses me a little bit. So I'm like, I don't want to put the burden on you, accepting a gift, not using it or whatever, So if I'm giving a gift, it's usually like my immediate family, like my sister, my daughter, someone close to me. But like just on an average, 2 years ago, I did make for my sister's 50th birthday party, I did make cosmetic bags for everyone to give away. And I said, okay, they'll be able to use this. This is a usable item. But I typically don't do that. But I make a lot of artwork for myself, to be honest.
The handbag you just showed me, that looks like that's going to be pretty much a piece of art. That is fantastic.
And this year, I told everyone, I said, this year for my immediate family is going to be handmade gifts. So I told them, I said, majority of your gifts are going to be handmade. So this will be the first year that I'm actually doing a whole bunch of handmade stuff. So this was one of the items that I said I would make. She was like, I need a tote bag. And I was like, I got you. So this year will be interesting. So I'm interested to see how this goes over, this year. So I think it'll be okay. I think I got a good ideal for these people, what I can give them and they'll use.
Yeah, that's awesome. I talked to another guest on another podcast about this very topic, and her answer was interesting in that, she does give gifts, but not just out of the blue. She really wants to work with the person to create the gift, right? Oh, okay. So that she is certain that it's something that they're going to want and use and get something out of versus, this is great. I know you spent a lot of time on it, but I really don't like it, so I'm going to stick it over here in the corner.
Absolutely. That's
nobody likes that.
That's a great idea.
So yeah, that's you can do that with your immediate family. You usually get a pretty good idea, and especially if it's your kids. Moms seem to have that sixth sense. They know what the kids want.
Yeah.
So in your sewing journey, and when you're doing your everyday sort of sewing, are there tools and gadgets, notions, things that are just must-haves for you that you'd like to talk about? What are your favorite things to use when you're sewing?
My favorite things to use, I just got a new gadget that I think is really cool. It's this ruler that you measure, you put your needle down. And let me go back. I don't understand why sewing machine makers don't mark where 3/8 of an inch is, a half inch. I was like, just put the mark on there that says that so that I can get my seam correct. So I just found this really new cool ruler.
And you need to send that to their suggestion bars. Come on. I mean, they are all looking for ways to improve.
I got like 20 million sewing machines. So I just got this really cool new ruler where you put the needle down and it measures it. And then you put on your magnetic seam guide that helps you guide the fabric through at a real, straight angle. So I thought that was pretty cool. But for the most part, my issues and what I find most helpful is a machine that can handle denim. And I'm on a quest. So I have brilliant machines, but I'm on a quest for this denim sewing machine outside of a industrial. I don't have room for an industrial machine.
Right.
So I'm testing out one now. And I've been having fun on it with this recent project, and so far so good. So I would have to say a denim sewing machine is my favorite thing.
You're not going to be buying that at the big box stores, right?
Absolutely not.
No, you need a workhorse for that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting with denim. I mean, right, you get needle selection is a big deal, right?
Absolutely,
the right kind of thread is a big deal. You can't just pick up anything and sew denim or any thick fabric.
That's the main thing, the thread, because I love top stitching. And so that top stitching thread will eat a regular machine up like nobody's business. And I think that's the struggle, getting a machine that can handle that. Everyone says theirs can sew denim, and I'm like, no. So
I want to be able to sew fast and good.
Right, absolutely. Without retthreading every 5 seconds for a shred in the thread, something that can handle.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you a Bernina ambassador, or you do something with Bernina?
No, I'm Husqvarna right
Viking.
now.
Viking, okay.
Viking. Yeah.
Okay. Do you? So you're only on Viking or also Pfaff?
No, I'm just using Viking right now. So that machine is beautiful for regular sewing. Sometimes it'll stitch my denim thread. Sometimes it won't, just like the other machines I'm finding. So I'm not using much denim on that machine.
Yeah.
Well, I can sew, I should say this. I can sew the denim. It's the top stitching. Yeah. Because I don't have to use top stitching when I'm sewing the denim.
Right.
But that top stitching thread.
Combination of thick thread and thick material is lethal for sewing machines.
Absolutely.
So, looking at where you are today, you got a magazine, you got a cool blog. Sewing's given you some opportunities, right? I mean, how would you say sewing has really enriched your life? Like, what if you could just put that into words? What does that sound like?
I think sewing has opened me up to a whole bunch of possibilities, right? So, and I've met some wonderful people, engaging people that I've not met in this sewing community. I would have never known about, some amazing people. So I would say the most important thing that I take away from sewing is the fact that I get to share my art with the world. And I absolutely love to talk to people about the clothes I make, because I know that everything I make is not for everybody. So I enjoy those conversations, whether they're good or bad. So that has been a plus in my sewing journey. So I would say, meeting the people, showing my work, the opportunities to experience machines like Viking and Bernina, those type of things have been amazing.
Yeah. Every time I'm on the podcast with a new guest, it always seems to come up, but the quality of the people within the sewing community and within the sewing industry, both, just seems to be different. There's something special and different about that subset of the population, right? That they seem to all have this quality of sharing and giving that is just different. I'm sure there's good people in the plastics industry and the automotive industry, but just specifically about the sewing business, I've just found a lot of good people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that.
And creative people. Yeah. So,
for sure.
And that's my thing. So anything, if I can put an art spin on it, I'm all about it. And if you want to engage and talk about it, I'm like so happy to do so.
That's cool. Now you said before you do some other kinds of art. I mean, you draw and paint and things of that nature as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And then sometimes I work that into my sewing as well. One of the things, since I work with denim so much, one of the things I've been getting real passionate about is like I do artwork in bleach on the denim. So I love doing that. So I've done a couple of different big things with the bleach denim. Just cool. Taking my paintbrush and going in there. And I'm really interested.
All abstract like stuff, or
some abstract, some not. I did a really cool denim jacket with an elephant on the back of it. So that's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Neat. So, a lot of good people in the industry. Are there any people that are in the industry? I mean, this is the industry of a lot of accomplished, creative, strong women in particular. Not there's some guys that sew and we like those guys too, but predominantly, this is a woman dominated community and place, even on the business side of things, a lot of the people that are influential in the industry are women. I just wonder, are any of those folks, sewists, makers, women business owners in the industry, people that you look up to or that have had some specific impact on your own career?
Absolutely. So when I started my blog, the first sewing blog that I saw, and I'm sure you'll talk to a lot of people, that Mimi G is the first blog that I saw. That was the sewing blog and I was like, I can sew. Like, this is a thing. So I was like, okay, I was following her way back when.
Yeah, and she's awesome.
She prompted me to start back sewing because I'm looking and I'm like, I can do this. I used to do this. I can do it. So I would say first starting off with the blogs, it was Mimi G. And, I followed her, still follow her to today. As I got into sewing.
East Coast, West Coast. There we go.
Yeah. As I got into the sewing and everything, Carolyn Norman, Diary of a Sewing Fanatic. I don't know if I got her blog right. I might get it right. Might have gotten it wrong. But she was also influenced, with learning new things, learning new techniques. Erin from Style So Me, those are some people that I've actually had relationships with and still have relationships with in the sewing community that I consider friends.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. You said something earlier and I didn't really get to dig into it, but you started this magazine and you said one of the reasons that you started the magazine is because you were seeing a lot of publications and things where people that you didn't see a lot of folks that look like you. I assume you mean people of color.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, just dig into that a little bit. What specifically about that? Was it the people that were creating in there that you primarily didn't see, and you knew that there were people of color that were creative and you wanted to give them a place, or you just wanted your own space, that you weren't?
It's all about me. No. No, you hit the nail on the head with the first one. It was that the creators. So, and to be honest with you, I don't buy sewing magazines often, and I know a lot of people don't. I'm at Joann's in line, and I might take a look at it if the cover's interesting. And one day I happened to look in there, and I'm like looking through the whole thing, and I'm like, okay. And for some reason, I don't know what it was, but I bought another magazine, and I'm looking through this magazine, and I'm like, okay. Let me look at the creators. I'm like looking at all these creators. I'm like, okay, I know this sewing community out there is colorful. And I'm like, why aren't these people? Okay. And then I was on a quest. So I'm buying all these magazines and I'm just going. And I went from $5 magazines up to $20 magazines. And I'm like, wait, I found like two people of color. They weren't African-American, but that was all I could find out of 12 magazines. I'm like, wow. Are you kidding me? I was like, we're out there. Like, so that prompted me to do survey. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make my magazine. And I was like, so I was on a quest. It happened in 2017. Thank God it's still going. So I represent African-American makers, but I also show all kinds of makers in my magazine. I'm not, it's not a Black magazine.
Right,
like
right.
I've heard people say that, you will see a lot of makers in there that are African American, but you will also see other ethnicities in the magazine. But, and I'm proud of that. And that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I executed.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Why do you think it is that you weren't seeing people of color as creators in other publications? Do you think that has more to do with the editors and people at the publishers of those magazines not recruiting specifically those people? Or, how aren't they not getting connected? If there's a lot of good creators out there, why weren't they getting put together, you think?
Yeah. So now I've been publishing some of those magazines now that, since that has happened, and doing my own and looking for people to be in the magazine. So I kind of stepped back and I did ask myself the same question. I'm like, I'm a go-getter. So me as an influencer, if I'm attracted to a product or I'm attracted to a brand, you know what? I have no problem reaching out to that brand saying, hey, I like your product. I'm interested in your product. I don't think there's a lot of people who do that of color, right? So if you don't ask, you never know, number one. You never know. So that could be it. I don't know. My main social media platform is Instagram, and that's so wonky. I don't know if now they're playing off of whoever's popular. How do you get popular? People are getting shadow banned now. And so it's really hard to see who's popular and who's not if they're taking the information from there. So I'm not quite sure, if they're not looking for the people or the people are not looking for them. So it's I'm split on why we're not in there at this point.
It must be a combination of the two. In today's world, I would think especially that, publishers would be super in tune with that. All you gotta do is watch the news for 5 seconds and it would tell you, this is what you should be doing, and for good reason, right? But
absolutely.
So it would be hard to believe that they weren't trying to do that. I thought that just was curiosity to me, but
I think somewhere along the way in the beginning, they probably weren't trying to. I'm going to just say that.
Yeah.
In the beginning, but with this day and age now, I've seen more since my magazine has been out. I've definitely seen more people of color in some of these magazines. So I'm happy to see that. I don't know if I
like to think that you had something to do with it, maybe.
I was going to say, I don't know if I had a little bit to do with that, but I'll take that. But, so that's always exciting. But
That's cool. I love seeing that. I hear a lot of stories. Everybody's is a little different, but certainly of women in particular in this business that started with just an idea, usually, or just maybe even stumbled into something. Then we're like, I can make a business out of this.
Absolutely.
And then before you know it, it's a massive business, a real legitimate career that is paying them a living wage.
Absolutely.
And that is so cool. Even to the extent of bringing that kind of stuff to third world countries and places where people don't have our opportunities. Sewing seems to be a way that gives, in particular, women a chance to stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Pretty cool stuff. So you do a lot of fashion sewing, but is there any other kind of sewing or technique or something sewing related that you haven't tried that you're wanting to try that might be sort of, on your sewing bucket list, if you will?
So let me be honest with you. All right. So I have 2 very good top and high end embroidery machines. I, for the life of me, have not sat down to conquer embroidery, and I'm ashamed to say it. Viking, I'm so sorry. That is my 2022 goal, is to get on those machines, because I do like this embroidery, the thing that I just showed you for my daughter's, my niece's bag. Like this kind of embroidery, I know I can do this on my machine. But it's like I haven't sat down and had the time to do it. So that is absolutely 2022. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to embrace the embroidery machines and learn how to use them and make magical things happen.
Oh, man, you have my mind turning there now. I'm thinking that would be an interesting video cast of Ellen March teaching Michelle Morris how to use her Viking embroidery machine.
I'd be down for that.
I think we could get some. I think we could get some traction on that. Be like embroidery 101, but with a real live person that people know and follow. I'm gonna have to put that bug in Ellen's ear on that.
Ellen has my email. I'll definitely do that because I've been, I have some product here, and I'm like, I haven't had the time to use it yet.
That'd make a good National Embroidery Month piece of content there, Michelle. Watch Michelle learn how to use her embroidery machine. That's cool. All right. Machine embroidery. Well, when you get ready for that, if we don't pull off what I was just suggesting, we certainly have some products for you to help you along the way. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
That's our wheelhouse. So, you showed me the bag project. Is that the only thing you're sewing on right now? I mean, you said you got all these other gifts that you're making handmade. What else are you sewing?
I am. My daughter, whose face you'll see all over my blog, she is the face of That Black Chic. She is my muse. So last year she was like, Mom, I got all these. She graduated from the University of Richmond. She was like, I have all these T-shirts. She was like, I need you to make me a quilt. So that is the first project that I started cutting out. So I am making her with her 37 T-shirts, a Richmond University quilt. That is one of my biggest things on here. And I'm no piece quilter by any stretch of the imagination. So it was funny because I was taking pictures and I said, I can't show these people how I really do this because the quilters are going to be mad at me because I'm sure not doing it right. But we're working with 12 by 12 squares. So that's the first thing I cut out. I'm going to make a couple of shirts for my sons. And I don't know what else I'm going to do.
That's cool. So your daughter, I was going to ask you about her. I've seen her all over your magazine. Mm-hmm. Does she sew at all, or is she just your model and muse?
She's just my model and muse. No, it was funny. She was she waited last minute. She was going to a costume party. And she said, I need a tulle skirt. And I'm like, wait, you waited last minute and you want a tulle skirt. I was like, you are sewing this yourself. So we did do a little sit down, a little mini lesson. And she did sew a little thinly layered tulle skirt because she was like, not about all those layers. So that's about the extent of her sewing. She does not sew.
Don't you love how the sewist in the family, everybody thinks that you can just whip something up on a drop of a dime, right? It's kind of like when you're a doctor in the family, everybody wants to show you their, mole or, tell you about their latest ache or pain.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I get paid to do this stuff.
Right. No, this is not.
So, Michelle, I'm sure you are many things outside of sewing. What other things do you involve yourself with, maybe hobbies or otherwise, when you're not working your full-time job and your other two full-time jobs?
I like that, my 3 full-time jobs.
Yeah. What else might you be interested in?
I love interior design. So I'm always trying to rip something apart and put something back together. So I've done upholstery. I've done a little woodwork. I don't like it, but
woodwork. Whoa, now hold on. Yeah. Like with a table saw and a jigsaw. What are you talking about?
Wait, let me correct that. I don't know if you really call it wood. I did baseboard. I do have a little handsaw.
Okay.
But yeah, that's about the extent of it. And I made shelves, just the wood shelves. Yeah. I don't get into, but I have tiled. I've done tile and I've cut tile. I bought a tile cutter and everything.
So look at you.
Yeah. So home improvement type stuff.
Little DIY home improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I don't even do tile work. Geez. I like to do all sorts of woodworking and things of that nature, but tile work, no, not so much.
Yeah, I really loved tile. When I first moved here, we gutted the living room floor and I did a whole big mosaic tile on that floor. That took months and months, but that was like, come after work, do some tile. That was easy because I was just breaking tile to fit into places.
Yeah, you don't have to be perfect with that. You just have to have an artistic eye, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, that was fun.
That's crazy. So I've enjoyed talking with you. And I always try to end the podcast with a particular question that I always tell people that, I don't believe in this industry that we are selling thread and fabric and notions and needles and et cetera. But what we're really selling is this sort of feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction that comes with creating something. Would you agree with that? And if so, how has that feeling, if you will, helped shape your sewing journey?
That I absolutely agree with that 100%, because I said, like, for me, that's what sewing is, being able to create something and garner some kind of response from someone. So I'm amazed, even when people don't like my stuff, I'm still amazed at the conversations that I have with these people and the artists. So creating is like, that's just, that's what I live for. And like I said, I don't like every step of the process, but the fact that I can do it and I do it well, that's amazing to me that I can make something out of my hand, take something and, a piece of fabric and make it into this awesome piece of thing or garment, whatever I'm making, and have people, admire it, not like it or whatever. Like to me, like I said, to me, it doesn't matter, just as long as it provokes some kind of conversation. I love that.
That's an awesome answer. I have not had that particular answer or that thought that, sewing being a way to create communication. Wow, that's profound. That kind of blows me away. I really hadn't thought about that. Yeah, even when someone doesn't like something, there's always good conversation to be had, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I can't think of a better way to sign off on this podcast than with that. We should all strive for looking for ways to talk to each other, right?
Absolutely.
I appreciate you taking time today, Michelle. Anybody with 3 full-time jobs doesn't have a whole lot of time to spare, so... thanks for taking your time and talking with us. We really appreciate it. It was fun to get to know you.
It was fun talking to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, everybody, this was Michelle Morris with thatblackchic.com. Just like it sounds. I thought it was That Black Chic at first, but I saw the little chick in the logo and made me realize what it was. And Sewn Magazine. Thanks again, Michelle. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. You take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Why Sew with Sulky. Give us a rating or a review and be sure to shop your favorite Sulky products, including threads, stabilizers, kits, and more at sulky.com.